Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring this really fascinating Japanese concept.
All right.
It's called Ikigai. And, it's this whole philosophy for living a really long and happy life.
Mm-hmm.
Our main guide for this is going to be this book,
Yeah.
Ikigai, The Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life.
Right.
And the more I read it, the more I realized, this isn't really just about, adding years to your life.
Right.
But it's about adding life to your years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's really where it gets interesting because Ikigai is often translated as reason for being.
Right.
But it's not like this one big, huge thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's much more about finding joy in kind of the little things, the everyday things.
Yeah, every day.
And feeling a sense of purpose even in those small tasks.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one of the things that the book dives into is they actually go to Okinawa, Japan.
Yeah.
Which is one of these blue zones where people routinely live to be over 100. And I was so struck by this one practice that they talk about in the book. It's called harahachibu.
Okay.
Have you heard of this?
I have, yeah.
So it's basically this idea of eating until you're 80% full.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really interesting is they're not measuring it or anything. It's
No.
they just know.
Yeah, and that's the essence of mindfulness, right? Not obsessing over the numbers, but really tuning into your body's cues, which I think is something that we in the, modern Western world have really lost touch with.
Yeah.
We're so used to, portion sizes and calorie counting.
Right. External cues.
Exactly. Yeah, we need to get back to that internal wisdom.
Absolutely. And it made me wonder, could something as simple as paying closer attention to how much we eat actually have an impact on how long we live?
Well, it's certainly a piece of the puzzle, right? There are a lot of factors that contribute to longevity, but Ikigai really emphasizes this idea of staying young, both physically and mentally. And I think there's this great quote in the book that really captures this. It says, "An active mind, youthful body."
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, it really stood out to me, too.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the importance of keeping our minds stimulated, challenging ourselves, learning new things.
Yeah, and they talk about that Israeli neuroscientist Shlomo Brezhnitz.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Who basically argues that our brains crave new challenges.
Yeah, they need it. It's like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it.
And I was thinking about all the times I've taken the easy route,
Right.
just doing things the same old way.
Oh, absolutely. We all get stuck in those ruts sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think Ikigai is about more than just preventing decline.
Yeah.
It's about actively thriving, right? And that's where I think flow state comes in.
Yes, flow state.
Have you ever experienced that?
Oh, absolutely. When time just flies by because you're so engrossed in what you're doing.
Exactly. And
Okay.
the book makes this really direct connection between flow and Ikigai.
Yeah.
And it even lays out these 7 conditions for achieving flow.
Right.
And one of the ones that really stood out to me was finding that sweet spot
Yeah.
where the task is challenging enough to keep you engaged, but not so difficult that you get discouraged.
Yeah, it's like that Goldilocks zone.
Exactly.
Not too hard, not too easy, just right.
Just right. And it's about finding that balance between your skills and the challenge at hand.
Right.
And the book gives this fascinating example. They talk about Japanese artisans or takumis
Oh, yes.
who dedicate their entire lives to mastering their craft.
The masters.
Right,
Okay.
sword-making pottery.
Yeah, and they find so much flow and purpose.
We do.
Even in the smallest, most repetitive tasks.
Yeah, it's amazing. And they call that microflow.
Oh, microflow. I like that.
Yeah, and it suggests that we can find this sense of flow and purpose in almost anything we do
Right.
if we approach it with the right mindset.
Yeah, I love that.
So think about it for a second. Could your Ikigai be found not just in your big life goals?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But also in the way you approach those everyday tasks.
Yeah, that's such a cool way to look at it because I think we so often get caught up in what's my one big passion,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's more about cultivating that sense of flow in everything we do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Yeah, but of course life isn't always, sunshine and flow states, right?
Of course not.
There's also stress.
Oh, yeah, stress is definitely part of the equation.
So how do we deal with that?
Well, the book actually delves into the biology of stress,
Okay.
explaining how our bodies react to perceived threats.
Right.
And the challenge is that in the modern world, we're constantly bombarded by these stressors, even if they're not actually life-threatening.
Right, like a stressful work deadline or traffic.
Exactly.
not exactly a saber-toothed tiger, but our body reacts the same way.
Yeah, it's like our ancient wiring hasn't quite caught up to the modern world.
Yeah. So how do we build resilience in the face of all that? Well, that's a great question. And the book really emphasizes the importance of resilience.
Okay.
Which is that ability to bounce back from challenges.
Yeah.
And there's this wonderful Japanese proverb, Ana korobi ya oki, which means fall 7 times, rise 8.
I love that.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And I think it perfectly captures the spirit of Ikigai.
Yeah, that image of just like getting back up no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
And the book goes on to explore different philosophies for building resilience, looking at both Stoicism and Buddhism.
Right.
Which is interesting because they come from totally different parts of the world.
They do.
But they both kind of emphasize accepting what we can't control.
Yeah, and focusing on what we can.
Right.
Which I think is a really powerful message.
Yeah, and they both offer these practical tools for managing negative emotions. Like the book talks about this Stoic practice called negative visualization, where you basically imagine the worst case scenario, which I remember when I first read that, I was like, wait, that sounds kind of counterintuitive.
It does, yeah.
But I guess the idea is by like mentally preparing for setbacks, you actually build resilience.
Yeah, it's like giving your mind a vaccine against stress.
Yeah, I like that.
So you're not so thrown off when things inevitably go wrong.
Right, and the book doesn't stop there. It goes even further.
Oh, yeah, it does.
With this concept of anti-fragility.
Oh, yes.
From Nassim Nicholas Taleb.
Have you read any of his work?
I have, yeah.
He's fascinating.
Yeah.
And this idea of anti-fragility is so powerful because it's not just about weathering the storm.
Right.
It's about actually growing stronger from it.
Yeah. Have you ever gone through something like incredibly difficult?
Oh, absolutely.
And come out the other side and you're like, wow, I'm actually tougher now.
You're like, I can handle anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the book outlines these 3 specific steps to becoming anti-fragile.
Okay, I'm all ears.
All right, so the first one is creating redundancy.
Okay.
So it's kind of like diversifying your life portfolio, you know.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Right. So like having multiple streams of income or skills.
Or a diverse group of friends and interests.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so spread your bets.
Spread your bets. That's step 1.
I like it.
Okay, step 2 is to be conservative in some areas, but take small risks in others.
Okay.
Kind of like a balanced investment portfolio.
Okay, I'm with you.
All right, and then the third step is to get rid of the things that make us fragile.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it makes sense, right? Like if we can identify and eliminate the things that drain our energy.
Yeah.
You know, prevent us from pursuing our Ikigai.
Absolutely.
Whether it's unhealthy habits, toxic relationships, even just like clutter in our lives.
Yeah, all that stuff that weighs us down.
Yeah, it's almost like decluttering.
It is. It's like decluttering for your soul.
I love that, decluttering for your soul.
Yeah, so we're not just talking about like physical spaces.
Right.
We're talking about mental and emotional spaces as well.
I like it, and it brings us to this other really beautiful concept from Japanese culture.
Okay.
Wabi-sabi.
Wabi-sabi, I love this one.
It's about finding beauty in imperfection.
Right, precisely. Yeah, it's about appreciating the cracks in the teacup, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the book connects this to longevity in a really profound way.
Oh, I'm really curious to hear more about that. How does embracing imperfection lead to a longer life?
Well, I think Wabi-sabi encourages us to kind of embrace the natural cycle of life and death, you know?
Yeah.
To find beauty in impermanence. And I think that can be really powerful because it kind of shifts our perspective, allows us to appreciate the present moment more fully.
Yeah.
Without clinging to the past or worrying about the future.
You know, that reminds me of the concept of ichigo ichiya.
Yes.
Which I think roughly translates to one time, one meeting.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about cherishing each moment as unique and unrepeatable.
Right.
Knowing that it'll never happen again in exactly the same way. Yeah.
It's like that saying, you never step in the same river twice.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that mindset can be incredibly freeing, you know? It allows us to let go of those regrets and anxieties.
Yeah, and I feel like it ties in really nicely with that idea of resilience that we were talking about earlier.
I agree.
Like, by embracing imperfection and transience, maybe we become more adaptable to change, you know?
Absolutely.
Less thrown off by life's curveballs.
Yeah, it's like we're building this emotional cushion for ourselves.
I like that.
By accepting that things are impermanent.
Yeah, so speaking of practical tools, the book also offers these 10 tips for living a longer, healthier life.
Right, and they cover a pretty wide range, everything from diet and exercise to social connection and having a sense of purpose.
Yeah, and I think, as learners, the tips about lifelong learning and pursuing our passions are going to be really resonant for us.
Absolutely. I mean, the book really emphasizes the importance of never stopping learning.
Right.
Always seeking out new knowledge, new experiences. And there's this quote in there from T.H. White, who wrote The Once and Future King.
Okay.
And he says, "The only thing which the mind can never exhaust, never alienate, never be tortured by, never fear or distrust, and never dream of regretting is learning."
Well, that's beautiful.
It is, right?
Yeah.
It speaks to the power of intellectual curiosity.
Yeah, and they don't just tell us to keep learning. They give us examples of people who embody this.
Yeah, like the artist Hokusai.
Oh, yeah.
Who famously said that everything he produced before the age of 70 wasn't worth counting.
Wow.
He believed that his greatest work came in his later years.
That's incredible.
It is right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us worry about, our minds declining as we age.
Yeah.
But Hokusai shows us that that's not necessarily the case.
Right. And they also talk about the architect Frank Gehry.
Oh, yes.
Who designed the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao.
Such an iconic building.
Yeah.
And even at 86, he was still talking about the importance of staying curious and engaged with the world.
So inspiring.
It is right. It gives you hope.
It does. It makes me wonder, what new things could I be learning?
Yeah.
What challenges could I embrace that would, keep my mind sharp and engaged?
It's a great question to ask yourself, and it's never too late to start, exploring new interests or diving deeper into the things that you're already passionate about.
Totally. And along with lifelong learning, the book also highlights the importance of diet for longevity.
Right. And it's not about, following some restrictive fad diet.
Right.
It's more about focusing on a balanced and nutritious way of eating.
Right, like a lifestyle.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes a diet that's rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, which aligns with what we know about promoting overall health.
Right.
And of course, it circles back to that Okinawan concept of hara hachibu.
Yeah, eating until you're 80% full.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I was really intrigued by the traditional Okinawan diet. The book mentions that they eat a lot of vegetables, especially sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
Along with seafood, tofu, seaweed.
It's so different from the typical Western diet.
It is, yeah.
Which often relies heavily on processed foods and added sugars.
Yeah, it's like night and day.
It really makes you think about how much culture plays a role in shaping our eating habits.
Absolutely. It's not just about individual choices. It's about the food traditions and customs of our communities.
I agree. And I think the book's suggestion to incorporate some of these time-tested principles from the Okinawan diet and other Blue Zone populations into our own diets is really valuable.
Yeah, it's not about completely overhauling everything.
Right.
But just finding inspiration from these cultures that seem to have figured out some of the secrets.
Yeah, they're onto something.
Alongside diet, the book also stresses the importance of regular physical activity.
Right. And again, it's not about pushing ourselves to the limit.
Right.
Training for a marathon or anything.
Yeah.
It's about finding ways to move our bodies regularly.
Yeah, just staying active.
Exactly.
And they talk about how even moderate activity like walking, gardening, doing housework
can
have a significant impact on our health.
It all adds up. And what's interesting is the book mentions that our metabolism actually slows down.
Really?
After just 30 minutes of sitting.
Oh, wow.
So getting up and moving throughout the day is key.
That makes sense. And it's interesting, they cite research showing that even short bursts of activity can help get things going again.
Exactly. It's all about incorporating movement into our daily routines.
Yeah.
Rather than viewing exercise as this separate chore-like activity.
Right. Make it a part of your life.
Exactly.
And the book also explores Eastern movement practices.
Yes.
Like yoga, qigong, tai chi.
These practices are fascinating because they combine physical exercise with mindful breathing.
Right.
Promoting this sense of harmony between body and mind.
Yeah, and they've been practiced for centuries in their countries of origin to promote health and longevity.
And what's really interesting is how much they're gaining popularity in the West now as people seek out more holistic approaches to well-being.
I think it speaks to a growing awareness that our physical, mental, and emotional health are all interconnected.
I agree.
And these practices offer a really powerful way to cultivate balance and resilience in our lives.
Absolutely.
So shifting gears a bit, let's talk about the role of social connection in Ikigai.
Yeah, the book makes a really strong case for the importance of strong social bonds.
Okay.
Both for our happiness and our longevity.
That makes sense?
And they highlight this concept of moai,
Okay.
which are these social support groups that originated in Okinawa.
Right.
And they're kind of like extended families.
Yeah.
Where members provide both practical and emotional support to one another.
It creates this real sense of community.
It does. And the book describes how these groups foster a sense of belonging, which research suggests can contribute to a longer, healthier life.
Yeah, so it's not just about having a lot of friends.
Right.
It's about having meaningful relationships.
Yeah, quality over quantity.
With people who support us and make us feel loved.
Exactly. And the book really suggests that cultivating a strong social network is essential for living a long and fulfilling life.
And it makes you think about, like, the quality of your relationships.
It does. Who are those people that you can really count on?
Right. Who are your tribes?
Exactly. And it's not just about finding those people. It's about nurturing those relationships.
Yeah, making time for the people who matter most.
Exactly.
And speaking of things that matter most, the book also talks about the importance of having a sense of purpose.
Yes.
A reason to get out of bed in the morning.
That Ikigai.
Yeah, it all comes back to that.
It's about finding that thing that gives your life meaning.
Yeah.
That drives you to contribute to the world in a way that feels authentic to you.
Right. And it doesn't have to be something grand or world-changing.
No, not at all.
It could be as simple as, being a loving parent, a dedicated teacher,
right,
a skilled artisan.
The key is that it's something you're passionate about.
Right.
Something that you find both challenging and rewarding.
And the book argues that having that sense of purpose is essential.
It is.
For both happiness and longevity.
For sure.
It makes sense. That sense of purpose gives us the motivation to keep going.
Yeah, to keep striving.
To keep growing.
To get up in the morning.
Exactly. And it helps us navigate life's challenges with a little more resilience and grace.
Absolutely.
One of the things I found so fascinating in this book was those stories of the centenarians.
Oh, yeah.
Those individuals who have lived to be 100 years old or more.
Their stories are so inspiring.
They are.
And the book shares examples of people from all walks of life, each with their own unique perspective on what it means to live a long and fulfilling life.
Yeah, it really makes you think, like, what are the common threads? What can we learn from these individuals who have lived, such long and seemingly fulfilling lives?
Yeah, well, some themes definitely emerge, like the importance of staying active, both physically and mentally.
Right.
The value of strong social connections, a sense of community.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps most importantly, this positive attitude, a zest for life,
Yeah, it reminds me of that story in the book about Jean Calment.
Oh, yeah.
The oldest person to have ever lived.
122 years old.
I know. Incredible.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, and they say she's just had this sharp wit and a true love of life.
She did, and there's this great quote attributed to her. She said, "I see badly, I hear badly, and I feel bad, but everything's fine."
Oh, wow, what a perspective.
I know, right? She chose to focus on the good even when things weren't perfect.
Yeah, and then there was Walter Bruning.
Oh, yes.
Who lived to be 114.
Amazing.
Yeah, and he attributed his long life to eating only 2 meals a day and working as long as he could.
Wow.
He believed that staying busy, both mentally and physically, was key.
It's funny because there is some research that suggests that, calorie restriction can actually extend lifespan.
Interesting.
So maybe he was onto something.
Yeah. Do you think there's something to this idea that, we're meant to stay active and engaged?
I think so. All these stories, these centenarians, they really paint this picture of human resilience and adaptability.
Yeah.
This enduring power of the human spirit.
They give us some really valuable lessons on how to live our lives to the fullest.
They do.
Embracing each moment with gratitude and purpose.
And I think one of the most valuable things about Ikigai is that it's not this rigid set of rules.
Right.
It's more of a philosophy.
Yeah, a framework.
A framework that we can adapt to our own individual lives.
So it's not one size fits all.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you.
Yeah.
What brings you joy and purpose.
What helps you thrive.
And the book reminds us that it's never too late to start living in alignment with our own Ikigai.
So no matter our age or where we are in life, we can make choices that lead us closer to that sense of fulfillment.
Absolutely.
It's pretty inspiring.
It is. And as we wrap up our deep dive into Ikigai, I want to leave you with one final thought from the book.
Okay.
It's a haiku by the calligrapher Mitsuo Aida, and it reads, Keep going. Don't change your path.
That's powerful.
It is, right? It's a message of perseverance and determination.
Yeah, a reminder to stay true to ourselves and to keep striving toward the things that matter most.
So as you go about your day, I encourage you to reflect on your own Ikigai. What brings you joy? What gives your life meaning? What are you passionate about?
Yeah.
And how can you cultivate these things in your daily life?
Beautiful. And remember, finding your Ikigai isn't about reaching some destination.
Right.
It's about the journey.
It's a journey itself.
And it's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Ikigai.
It's been a pleasure.
May you find joy, purpose, and a long and fulfilling life.